You are listening to a free version of the Majority Report with Sam Seder. To support this show and get another 15 minutes of daily program, go to majority.fm, please.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Trump threatens the country with the Insurrection Act, says he will release the military if the governors don't toughen up. Meanwhile, his defense secretary tells those same governors dominate the battle space. Protests and looting across the country. New York City extends its 8 p.m. curfew for another 5 days. Meanwhile, Justin Amash and Democrats plan legislation to end qualified immunity, to end the 1033 program, and more. Independent autopsy shows that Floyd died of asphyxiation as a function of having cops on his neck and back. Meanwhile, the Louisville mayor fires its police chief in the wake of killing an unarmed black man during the protests. The Wisconsin Supreme Court will revisit throwing 130,000 people off its voter rolls. Judges uphold vote by mail and absentee voting in Nevada and Virginia, respectively. Oh, and incidentally, there's a bunch of primaries today. Maryland, Indiana, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, D.C. The IRS, starved of resources, letting high-income scofflaws walk. And we still have a pandemic going on, so you'll be happy to know that Anthony Fauci hasn't talked with Donald Trump in 2 weeks. And the testing czar position in the federal government is to be eliminated. Lastly, as the Senate zeroes in on sitting the 200th new conservative federal judge, where are Pelosi and the Democrats? Vacation. Vacation. All this and more on today's program. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We had other things scheduled for today. Maybe we'll get to them tomorrow. Maybe we'll get to them next week. We will have those guests on. But yesterday, of course, another day of police violence, of uprising, of protests, of some looting, of Donald Trump really starting to feel comfortable, or at least it feels like there was a decision made yesterday or in the past couple of days that the best course of action for Trump is to really heighten the contradictions, I guess, right? We would say, to really promote violent polarization in the country. I mean, I don't know how else to express this. And, it is, it's depressing. It is disturbing. I think some people, frankly, are invigorated by it a little bit. Others, not so much. Count me in the not so much crowd. I don't know where we go from here, frankly. And, I got to tell you, it also extends to the show. Like I spent, 7 hours on Twitter last night. And just because of the nature of the work that we all do here, we are that type of people. And it gets, I'm sure many of you were just sitting there and absorbing as much information as possible. And it's disturbing. It's really disturbing time in the country. We are seeing some hints that maybe some lawmakers will at least be pushing certain legislation. Will it pass? Of course not. But we're starting to set some markers. New York State, the state Senate is, I've seen it described as flirting with the idea of making the police records of complaints and misconduct by police officers, making that public. And of course, the police union in New York City in particular said they will go to war over that, which I don't know, maybe they've been just practicing on the streets of New York City. But we will get into all of this today. And, I got to tell you, I've been doing this for 15 years and don't really have a great sense of how to navigate all of this. We've pushed ads for the past couple of days. We're going to do some ads today because, at one point we need to pay the bills. And it is a weird, the juxtaposition between the crap show that is going on and sort of doing anything that seems like normal is just a weird experience. And, it's been that way in many respects throughout this whole COVID-19 era. And we still have all that. The virus is still here. John Barry was helpful, I guess, in sort of saying like, it's going to be here. And we don't really have a plan on how to live with it. Maybe we get lucky. I suspect what will happen is we're going to get lucky for some period of time, and then we will get unlucky. But it is still here, and we will talk about those things. Let's just start with this. This is how yesterday basically started. Donald Trump is on the phone with governors. I haven't heard of any governors who have come out and said that was a great inspirational phone call. Someone leaked the audio. I've seen reports where, and we're going to talk obviously about the assault on protesters in Washington, D.C. to clear the way for Trump to have a photo op in front of a church holding a Bible upside down. I don't know if he did that on purpose or just he has no idea which way the letters go. But prior to that happening, Donald Trump got on the phone with some governors and was giving them a pep talk. Let's play this.
We're strongly looking for arrests. You have to get much tougher. You're going to get over it. I know Governor Walz is on the phone, and we spoke, and I fully agree with the way he handled it the last couple of days. I asked him to do that. Get a lot of men. We have all the men and women that you need. But people aren't calling them up. You have to dominate. If you don't dominate, you're wasting your time. They're going to run over you. You're going to look like a punching jerk. You have to dominate. And you have to arrest people, and you have to try people. And they have to go to jail for long periods of time. These are radicals, and they're anarchists. They are anarchists, whether you like it or not. I know some of you guys are different persuasion. I'm fully understand it. I understand both. I'm for everybody. I'm representing everybody. I'm not representing radical right, radical left. I'm representing everybody. But you have to know what you're dealing with. And it's happened before. It's happened numerous times. And the only time it's successful is when you're weak. And most of you are weak. Washington was under very good control, but we're going to have it under much more control. We're going to pull in thousands of people. And we were under guard of the D.C. police, the mayor of Washington, D.C. And Secret Service did a very good job around the White House, but their primary function is around the White House. But we're going to clamp down very, very strong. But you have to arrest people, you have to track people, you have to put them in jail for 10 years, and you'll never see this stuff again. And you have to let them know that.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that's bat crap crazy. First of all, governors are not in charge of sentencing. I mean, aside from that, but this idea that he's on the phone with these governors telling them that they've got to crack down. I mean, he was foreshadowing what was going to happen in Washington, D.C. later that day. And he is calling on these governors to bring out the National Guard and, I don't know, do stuff like what we saw in Minnesota, where they were walking down the street, yelling at people to stay in their homes, and then firing rubber bullets at them to get them to go inside off of their porches without any warning. I mean, there's images like this throughout the country. We've got some footage of what happened in Seattle, where they essentially decide to disperse peaceful protesters with military hardware. It's nuts. And, you know, we got a speech from Joe Biden this morning. Apparently we had a speech from Nancy Pelosi. I missed that. They released a statement yesterday, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, that was, it's embarrassing to even read. If you want to signal that what's going on is wrong, what you do is you say, we're not going to have our vacation for the House. We're going to come back. Or at the very least, we're going to vote remotely. I mean, do something. Do something that signals that you take this seriously. Because, you know, I have always considered it to be a bit of a fantasy that, or fantastical, that, you know, Donald Trump is going to become some type of authoritarian despot. But, you know, because I was always wondering, like, where, him and what army? Well, it turns out to be, you know, probably the cops. And I don't know if it would be the military. I think the military is a little more professional than these cops, for sure. But it's also this Insurrection Act, you know, it's unclear exactly where the president can exercise it. But we will see. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Like I said, we're going to do some ads today. My kids were pretty adamant about this, I got to be honest with you. In fact, they were going to record something, but we won't play it this time. But this episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon. As you know, breakfast cereal, great for kids. You have some great memories as a kid of breakfast cereal. Easy. Sit down. I remember, we all remember the mainstays. But you also realize, particularly when you have kids yourself, that these breakfast cereals, they're full of junk. Well, Magic Spoon is a new cereal company that's discovered a way to recreate your favorite childhood cereals with 0 sugar, 12 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. It's sort of nuts, but it really does, like, I can't remember what the name, like Count Dracula, and then there was the Boo Berry, and then there was